Hello and welcome back to Two Dudes, One Barbell. This is episode 11, and today we are discussing recovery and all the aspects of it, what you need to keep in mind, and what you need to know to maximize your training by managing your recovery.
Yeah, it's something that some people struggle with, I would say.
Definitely, and something that a lot of people don't prioritize usually until it's too late.
Yeah, and the dominoes have all fallen over.
Yep, and they're injured and they're busted and they run out of steam, and
They're
yep.
like,
I'm guilty of it. Like for a long time, I didn't manage my recovery properly. I'm a bodybuilder. I just like to go in and train as hard as I can. So
yeah, definitely.
Definitely something I've worked on a lot more in the last few months.
Actually, it was your first time you've ever had a deload.
Yeah. So like only since John started managing my programming at this stage in my prep have I actually had an implemented and scheduled deload week, and it was phenomenal.
Why don't you run through your experience with a deload for, those people are skeptical about taking a week off. Not really. I call it a week off, but it's obviously not a week off. But
you're still doing some stuff. But
yeah. So what was your experience? Because it was the first time.
Oh, my experience, of course, I was hesitant. I haven't done it before. I struggled to see the validity in it. And so, it was boring, training-wise, as someone who loves to train, because you're only doing, maybe 2 or 3 exercises and only, half the sets and reps and less weight, so it doesn't feel like you're actually doing much in the gym.
Yeah.
But coming off the back of it, I lined it up with a diet break as well to maximize recovery, so I was eating maintenance again after being in a deficit for a long time. And yeah, I felt really good coming out the back of it. If it weren't for my quad thing, I would have been 100%. And then the flow-on effect was that my hunger was diminished due to the diet break. I was more energetic and ready for the training the following week. And the flow-on effect of actual fat loss when I jumped back into a deficit and started training hard again was huge. It was my best week of measurements since my first week of dieting.
Yeah, the best drop you had since the first week.
And it was nearly the exact same amount. It was 4.5 mil in a week, which is massive for me.
And you're super vascular within 2 days.
Yeah. So it was a really good experience, in my opinion. And so I can definitely see the validity for him now.
Yeah. And what was your sleep like when you hit that?
I think I was sleeping better. I sleep pretty well.
Or is it's just the same? It wasn't really much change.
No, I think since I prioritize it so much of these days, and obviously I'm doing the mouth taping and the nasal strips, and I make sure I schedule 8 hours. I've never had an issue with sleeping since the last few years at least.
When you started thinking about it?
When I started I'm just good at sleeping and napping now after I don't know, working so hard for so many years. I don't know, I can really just force myself to nap anywhere at any time.
Oh, okay. That's a skill in itself.
I've napped in the office, in the PT office, under one of the desks with 3 other dudes in the room, and I've had a 20-minute nap.
Wow, that's actually impressive.
I'm good at napping.
Yeah, I'm terrible.
Until James threw a coin at my junk while I was sleeping.
What? He did that?
Yeah, he was across the room, made a 10-cent coin. Oh, no. He threw it, got me right on the knob, and woke me up. Yeah.
It's a rude awakening.
It was.
Goodness me.
It was rubbish.
Anyway, so we can expand on the sleep one, but then we'll probably circle around and talk about how people could feasibly implement a deload week, because that's probably one of the things that people might be missing in their recovery. But then we'll talk about the extras after that. Yeah.
I think it applies to certain people as well. A lot of people that aren't pushing themselves to
don't need one.
No, if you're working and your perceived rate of exertion every workout is 6 or 7, and you're man, I should take a deload next week. It's
no. Yeah. That's why the idea, and we talked about this when what week was that? We were talking about, which week were we talking about progression? Oh, we talked about the principles of training.
Yeah.
How you're trying to ramp up to your maximum amount of work or close to it. And that's after that's when you take your
deload.
You take
so
your
after
break.
you've gotten to the absolute hardest week of your training, and then you deload. Yeah.
Anyway.
So factors of recovery. We've got obviously sleep. That's a massive one. That's a huge chunk of recovery. If you're not sleeping well, you're gonna struggle. Then we've got protein intake
and
and total calories. So food.
Yeah.
So if you're fueling your nutrition properly, like obviously if you're not eating enough food to be able to repair your body, so like if you're in a severe deficit, like with me, the whole idea of a deficit is you don't have enough energy to maintain fat stores, so your body has to use fat for energy and yada yada. And while you're doing that, you haven't got excess calories to put towards muscle building or recovery or anything like that.
Or even the immune system.
Even
right?
the immune system,
like a lot of things.
I'm pretty sure I've been fighting off a virus for the last week now.
Really?
Yeah.
The virus?
A virus. The virus. COVID?
No. A virus.
A virus. It's really weird. I've got like inflamed taste buds on my tongue.
Really?
Yeah. Hurts like hell.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's rubbish. But yeah, immune system drops. And so recovery is going to be obviously trash, which is why managing work output, managing loads, scheduling deloads, diet breaks are very important when you're on a competition prep.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, so to carry on from the list that we're going to cover, we're going to talk about obviously deloads and rest, and then we're going to go through the extras, cold water therapy, sauna, baths, massage, needling, acupuncture, cupping, gua sha. You guys probably don't know what that is, but we'll go into that, and we'll probably cover stretching as well.
Cool. So all the extra stuff you can do on top of the main ones.
Yeah. So the first few are definitely the meat and potatoes.
The big rocks of recovery, yeah.
The big rocks of recovery. Yeah. And we've already addressed them because they're so important.
Yeah. And then we've got the extras. So
So sleep. We know from what we've talked about, if you don't sleep enough, your body composition suffers a lot. Yeah. In terms of sleep affecting performance, cardiovascularly, 1 night of sleep is going to affect your VO2 max. 1 night of poor sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. For strength training, it takes more than 1 night of poor sleep for it to affect you.
Okay.
Yeah, about 3 nights.
And then you start seeing
and then you see problems. And I'll have to check the study, but I think they were restricted to like 6 hours or something.
Okay.
So some people might be sleeping only that much anyway, and they're like, oh, I'm fine. But you sleep 2 more, or you allocate 2 or 3 more hours.
And you could be doing so much better.
You could be doing better.
Way better.
So what other things would be, what other components of fitness would people be training? So cardio and strength, those are the only 2 I really think about.
Yeah.
Speed would definitely be affected.
Reaction time is definitely
most
affected.
Definitely affected.
Hugely affected.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we could... Yes.
Sleep just in general, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Get your sleep.
Get your sleep. I mean, it's more important than... Well, if you sleep a third of your life, right, which you should...
Yep.
It must be important.
It must be important. Yeah, we need it for a reason.
Based on...
And like, I think it's people, they think, okay, if I sleep more, I miss out on more time to do things in the day. But if you feel worse and you perform worse, you're actually only getting like 80 or 70% of your day, like actually out of your day.
And you probably get less enjoyment out of it.
Absolutely. Because you're tired and you're grumpy and you're running on coffees. I mean, I speak from experience. But yeah, if you can be well rested, and you go into work well rested or whatever you're doing well rested, you're gonna get way more out of it, even if it's less time.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean,
memory for the sake of it. Like if you think you're gonna miss out on things, well, you won't even remember them if you're sleep deprived that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I think I was going to try and find that study where people who are sleep deprived don't know that they're sleep deprived. Did I tell you about that? No. So like, I'm gonna have to delve into the library to find these things.
Yeah.
But they reported the fact that after a few days, people overestimate their restfulness when they're sleep deprived. So a lot of people who are sleep deprived are like, oh no, I'm functioning wonderfully, right? But that's like a switch in your brain where your body is sort of telling you, oh, this is kind of the new normal. We'll just have to deal with it. Like you've adapted to a new set point. You've adapted to being subpar.
Yeah.
And you think that that's
And so you're like,
normal.
this is life now.
Yeah.
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 Oh
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, which is a bit sad.
Yeah. It is
So
a bit
you
sad.
won't, at some stage, some people may not even know they're sleep deprived, but
And-
everyone around them knows.
I've actually had that with clients before where they've come to me and been like, I'm super tired all the time. I feel like rubbish. I got no energy. And I'm like, and then I put them on, for instance, like higher calories for a week and they come back and it's like, I'm a new person. I didn't know I could feel this good. It's like,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's happened a couple times.
Well, that's a good segue into food.
Food, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
yeah, and like the flow-on effect of just not consuming enough calories all the time. Like you're never gonna fully recover. That's why, bodybuilders that stay lean all year round, especially natural guys, mainly natural guys. That's all I can talk for.
Yep.
If you're lean all the time, you're never gonna be able to have enough energy to put towards not only like building muscle but also recovering. And there's a flow-on effect of gaining some fat inevitably when you're in a surplus or around maintenance or you're trying to consume more calories. That's why there's like an off season or a building season.
yeah, and also when you're in a surplus, a solid surplus, and for bodybuilders, it's probably between 10 and 20% body fat. Is that reasonable to say?
Yeah, it's a big range.
It's quite a big range. Maybe 20% is too big for Adam.
Yeah.
But in that range, we're gonna probably grow the most
muscle.
muscle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna grow muscle above that, but bodybuilders don't want to go above 20%.
No, like if you put on too much fat, means you got to lose all that fat. And
Exactly,
lose
it's
muscle
just
mass
not
in the same
feasible
process.
for them.
Yeah.
In terms of time period. So, yeah.
But yeah, so you definitely need to be focused on consuming enough food. And if you feel super beat down and like ruined, injured, niggles, or like coming up and not going away, then it's probably a good idea for you to maybe eat a little bit more food.
Yeah. And that comes down to knowing what you ate actually too, which is, I think
awareness.
more than 50%, 60% of the population's problem is they don't actually know what they've eaten.
Completely unaware. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
it's probably higher than that.
Definitely. Well, that's why we're in an obesity epidemic. It's not a majority of people that are overweight because they know what they're eating and they know what to do about it.
Yeah.
It's
Do you know the figures at the moment?
Not at the moment.
It's pretty. Well, last time I checked, it was 70% of the Australian population, 70% were overweight
70%.
or obese, based off BMI. And you guys might complain that BMI is a terrible measurement.
There's an argument for BMI, obviously, because of like the muscle mass accounts for it. Like technically, I'm overweight, and like you'd be overweight.
Yeah, I'm actually obese.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Due to excess muscle mass, but the argument for that as well is if you got that excess muscle mass, then you're obviously somewhat healthy and okay with it. So, like the BMI.
Let's talk about BMI and its application.
Yeah.
Just quickly.
Okay.
All right. So BMI works in a larger population because it averages out. Not everyone goes to the gym. How many people do have a fair amount of muscle? You might think that it's lots of people, but that's only because you hang out with people with lots of muscle.
Oh, absolutely.
The majority of people are fat and skinny fat and fat, right? So BMI works, right? And I'm sorry if I offended anyone, but most people are fat. Okay, because that's the statistics, right?
So, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're out here trying to help you guys.
Yeah.
That's why we have jobs.
That's why we have jobs. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
But like if we were looking at like basic measurements people could use to work out whether they really were overweight and they thought BMI was rubbish, maybe just a simple waist measurement would be suffice.
Yeah.
To see your risk of cardiovascular disease or chronic
hip
disease.
to waist ratio, is that it? Or is it
you could do hip to waist if you wanted, but some people have super wide hips.
Yeah.
Like just a
just
general waist.
circumference of waist,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So if you want some quick figures, off the top of my head, women above 80 cm around the waist are at moderate risk. Women at 88 cm are high risk. Men above 94 are moderate, and men above 102 are high risk.
There you go.
Easy.
Yeah.
Just go measure your waist. Obviously, I'm a big man. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be some leeway.
Yeah.
But on average, that's pretty good, and that's sort of like BMI, right? On average, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It works in a large population, not an individual level necessarily all the time.
Now, just to round that out, I agree with everyone that BMI is pretty rubbish on an individual level,
Mm.
right? And when I was doing having my sleep problems, I went to a doctor,
Mhm.
right? And I just done the sleep study, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you have mild apnea." It seems to me like, oh, you might be. Oh, it says here that you're obese. Doesn't even look up, right? And like this doctor had like a big gut. It's
Yeah.
like so. It was classic. And he's like, yeah, you probably could benefit from losing weight, and that will help you sleep better. That was his interpretation of the sleep
results.
study.
Oh,
yeah.
good. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was
Fair
like, are
enough.
you serious? Oh my gosh, that was that makes me angry.
Yep. Anyway,
We'll move
fair
on.
enough. Yeah.
Full rain mode there. I'll probably have more rants in this one. Okay.
Yep. You already had a rant before we started filming. He was ranting about a couple other things, so we'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
All right. So what we covered? We covered sleep. We covered protein and calorie intake.
Maybe one extra thing on protein intake. We did talk about how it doesn't really matter the timing of protein, but if you haven't eaten breakfast or if you haven't eaten before training, it is important to have calories after training to stimulate repair.
Mm.
So if you haven't had a pre-meal before you train, it's more important that you have a post-exercise meal. Just something to keep in mind.
Yep.
I don't think we really addressed that last time.
No, I don't think so. We just talked about protein, not necessarily just calorie consumption. Like pre and post meals, pre and post training nutrition, we didn't really touch on. We just touched on that protein timing wasn't 100% the most important thing in the world.
No, but it does become more important if you haven't eaten before you train.
Mm.
So some people like to train without food, right? Whether that's good or bad, we really going to depend on the individual. Naturally, it's probably better to have food if you can handle it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have food before, then it becomes extra important.
Post workout.
Yeah, post workout.
Because you need those nutrients in your body to start rebuilding. That's just it. Like,
yeah.
People that, and like training is inherently catabolic, so it's breaking down muscle tissue. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so if you got no nutrients to start rebuilding, it's like you're just breaking down the house and not getting the construction's crew back in to start building anything.
You just broke down a wall and then
left it. Left it to rot. So definitely prioritizing nutrition just in general when you comes to training. We can go into maybe more about that another time.
The timing,
and the workout nutrition, because that could be a podcast of itself, like optimizing it for sports and weight training specifically and stuff like that.
Maybe we can even get some experts on for that one.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about the extras. Let's talk about everything else that everyone does. Sometimes what they prioritize rather than doing the big rocks, because they think a massage will save them when they just need to have a couple nights good sleep.
That's classic, right?
That's a lot of people.
This is the funny thing, right? People are willing to go get a massage, and then they're less likely to buy PT.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a weird thing. No, it's not weird. I understand it, because like massage, someone is doing something for you.
Yeah.
PT, someone is doing something for you, but you still have to do something.
Yeah. It's not just passive.
You can't outsource your training.
It's not instantaneous. Like, you can walk away from a massage and you'll feel good for a couple of hours and you're like, that really did something.
Yeah.
Whereas starting with a PT, it's going to be in like 3 months' time. It's like, I feel fantastic. But immediately from that first session, you're just going to walk away being like, all right, cool, we're started.
Yeah, we started. Yeah. Anyway.
But absolutely, like, what's your opinion on massage and soft tissue work in general?
Should we start with that? Okay.
Yeah,
I really like it. I think it's super beneficial.
Me too.
And it's only really anecdotally that I've noticed that really helps me recover, especially towards the end of some high volume work, right? I like trigger point. I like massage. I think it's all very useful, and I implement it for other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the one that got me into the really hardcore trigger pointing, like trigger pointing my quad and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it helps, right? And,
God, yeah.
You'll have tight tissues, right? And then maybe they're not contracting properly, and by focusing in or trying to release those tissues to some extent, you're going to get better range of motion, and the right muscle's going to be firing, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And the point on the triggering is a lot of the time, you have to go harder than you're comfortable doing or you really want to do. Like when muscles seize up and they get tight, a little like soft rub on the leg or a little like that is not going to do too much. But if you dig into it and find the nastiest bit, and that's what I tell people now when I get them to implement triggering, it's like find the nastiest bit and hold it there for like 30 to 40 seconds until it starts to relax.
And don't forget to breathe.
Yeah, and breathe and relax. Don't fight fight the contraction.
Yeah, and it's only going to be effective as much as you can tolerate it, because if you push too hard, this is the funny thing with massage, right? If you push too hard and you're contracting as a resistance, it possibly could make it worse. Arguably. Like, if you ever had a massage where you're like, I just felt like I was beaten up and then it didn't really feel good, or does it always feel good?
I don't know. I think it always feels good when it's happening. Like I don't know whether I just have a high pain tolerance or whatnot. Like
I think you do.
I think I do, obviously from training. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I walk away from massages being like, I feel the same. Like I'm maybe loosen for 2 hours and then it tightens up again or something like that.
Yeah.
I know better than to not relax and breathe though. Because I've had plenty of massages. Like there's been times where I've been getting one a week for like 8 weeks straight. Like I've spent a fair bit of money for people to put their hands on me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We won't delve into that too much more.
But it's so let's talk about like even right now. Like I've seen a remedial massage therapist every week for the last 3 weeks, and I've seen my physiotherapist on weekends as well. So that's me.
Yeah, and it's been helping.
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to train right now. Like my forearm would be super jacked still, and like my quad is now getting better thanks to Liam. But yeah, like if I hadn't had that soft tissue work, I'd definitely be struggling.
And I think the key for massage and any of these extras, the ones where someone else is doing it, you need to find someone who's an expert, and you probably need to trust them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, especially when people are jabbing into tissues that are very sensitive, right?
And so
you need someone good, right?
Yeah, there's got to be there's a significant difference between like a good physio and a bad physio, or like a good physio and your local masseuse, like at one of the little Thai foot rub places, and they're digging into some super jacked up traps because you're a weightlifter. It's like you probably need something a little bit more experienced with what you're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's like, especially if you're training a lot. I mean, I've had that. I remember getting a massage in Thailand once, and this like little old lady was trying to massage me, and she just started laughing because she couldn't do anything. Like, you need someone who can actually manipulate the tissue in a way that would be recovering. And I was like, this is
a waste of time.
This is almost a waste of time.
Yeah. She started laughing at
She actually started laughing
really,
because like part of Thai massage, I think, is you're supposed to be able to stretch them.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't move me. I was trying to help, but just too stiff.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So finding someone that knows what they're doing. Usually someone like especially if you're a weight trainer or like a lifter, you need someone with a bit of a background in weight training. I find
most definitely. Yeah, especially when it comes to physios. And a remedial massage therapist who understand
what you're doing and what you're gonna do, and
they're not gonna tell you, oh, you just need to take a break.
That's the worst. Absolute worst.
You just need to rest. Nothing worse than that. Yeah.
All right, so let's run through some soft tissue
Okay, so as an extension of soft tissue massage, have you ever done cupping?
I've done cupping once when it was like a free thing at the gym. I think one of the other PT's mums did it, so she cupped my back. Actually, I've been cupped a couple times. The guy I was seeing at the Happy Foot massage would cup me occasionally. Just occasionally, every now and again.
Did you get it on your back, or did you?
Yeah, on my back. Always on my back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had cupping done quite a few times. More so when I was in Singapore than here. I don't think I've had cupping. Oh, maybe a couple of times. I think it's useful, but like it's hit or miss for me. Hit or miss. I think massage has been more robust and
beneficial.
Yep. As an extension of cupping, have you ever had scraping done or gua sha?
I've only had scraping done from you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
Scraping, like, people might have seen it on Instagram. It's been getting a little bit more exposure with, if you follow bodybuilders, I reckon you'll see it. Like, I saw a video of a guy getting scraped this morning.
Oh, really?
Scraped on his chest. So, like, a lot more bodybuilders are doing it now. And if you ever see someone, basically, they're, like, rubbing a metal rod along their muscles or something like that.
They call it Graston.
Graston, yeah.
The Graston method.
The
Which is just gua sha for white people.
Yeah, just like dry needling is just acupuncture for white people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so because you've done gua sha, and I've had you've done it to me. It's basically just
massage, except with an implement.
Okay. Yeah.
Really, it's very targeted massage, and you can get a bit deeper with it.
Mm.
Now, some of the original gua sha can do it along your spine.
Oh god.
I've had that done, and I had like full bruising right down my spine. I don't know how beneficial that is.
Yeah. Okay.
Questionable, but applying the Graston method, or if someone is really good at that, I think they can get into the tissues a lot easier using an implement. Yeah. Which definitely worth trying if you know someone who is very experienced.
Very experienced.
Yeah, I would say.
I don't know how many of those people are around though.
No, not really. People are all about learning in Australia, especially in the fitness industry. I'm sure we can find someone.
Someone who could do, because I'd love to get some, like, proper big scraping done just everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, well, who's Chris Duffin has that implement, the boomstick. Have you seen that?
The boomstick? No, I
haven't.
haven't.
The boomstick. So he just uses. Obviously, the tool is not like a small metal rod, which it would be for Graston. The boomstick is actually a weighted piece of metal, and you can roll it on tissues. Very, very cool. Or you could use a kettlebell. That works too.
Chris Duffin just has everything.
Yeah, he is the mad scientist. Yeah, it's a boomstick.
That's the boomstick. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a weighted implement, and you use it as a massage tool.
Yeah. Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, super.
That's sick.
So very, I'd love to buy one, but it's quite expensive.
$170 plus postage. Yeah.
Yeah, from America.
From America, yeah. Maybe not.
So yeah, maybe not. But yeah, you could. I've experimented with using a kettlebell on my forearm and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That works on your thigh, so it's very similar.
And I see guys using like the barbell and rubbing the barbell up and down.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It'll be a very similar thing. Obviously, more general than gua sha or using a small implement.
Yeah.
But definitely probably pretty useful if you have some tight tissues, and maybe actually more effective in some cases.
Mm.
Yeah.
Alright. So talking about tight tissues, we've discussed light tissue work, or whatever else I call it. Soft tissue work.
Soft tissue.
And the benefits of it, like definitely loosening up the muscles when they seize up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are some other things we can use to loosen up knots and tight muscles and stuff like that?
Well,
so
we talked about needles.
Needles, yep, dry needling, and I've had lots of dry needling done.
Yeah, and obviously the same thing applies, right? If someone is good at the method, right, then go to them.
Yeah.
Don't go to some random acupuncturist and
expect them to do some
and expect them to fix your problems. My experience with acupuncture is one and done.
Yep.
When I went to it in Singapore, they suggested that I should do it to help release my shoulder, and they put needles all over my whole back, and my whole body was wrecked.
Yeah.
For like 3 months.
Jesus Christ.
I training was hard. And they probably said all the toxins were releasing or whatever. I don't think any therapy should knock you out for 3 months. They obviously did something.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yikes. Fair enough.
It wasn't like I could start training maybe 2 weeks in after that, but it wasn't right until...
Even that's pretty intense.
It was pretty intense.
2 weeks out of action due to a therapy, yikes.
Yeah, so be careful, especially with some of the more invasive methods.
When they're sticking needles in you, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Definitely.
Alright, so let's talk about, we got 2 studies here. We got one on cold therapy and one on sauna.
Sauna, yeah. So
where do we start?
Well, we should probably start with cold therapy,
yeah,
right? And
so
before
I have a rant on this one.
Yeah, before you started with cold therapy, before I talked to you about it today,
mm-hmm.
what was your thoughts on cold therapy?
I have seen and heard posts and stories from Instagram about. I think I saw the post that the Squat University made about it as well, and I think Brad Schoenfeld's made a post about it months ago as well about it not being that good for protein synthesis.
Yeah, and that's effectively the study that we looked at. So what they did is they looked at people doing exercise, and very similar to the study that we looked at last week, they measured MPS through taking biopsies. And what they found was when they exposed them to cold water therapy, which is about 7 degrees, under 7 degrees, so it's not like freezing, it's not an ice bath, but it's cold.
Yeah.
It impeded muscle protein synthesis based off their testing.
Okay.
So the speculation is inflammation and cell swelling is part of muscle growth, which probably it like almost 100% is.
Yeah.
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 However, counter argument, right, for cold water therapy, it does help you be less sore the next day, right? There's pretty good research on that. The thing is, it's like, what are you doing the cold therapy for?
Yeah.
Right? If you needed to do, say you're an athlete, and let's use an extreme example. Let's say you're a sevens player, rugby sevens, and you have to play more than one game in a day.
Yeah.
You need to recover for the next game. Cold water therapy is gold.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you want to get bigger, it's not
so much.
Right? So the application of the therapy is very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't throw it out with
completely.
A bath water.
Yeah.
That's so bad. But it definitely has minimal application in hypertrophy or bodybuilders.
Yeah.
We don't know yet whether it affects strength development.
Okay.
So
it would impede hypertrophy, but maybe not necessarily strength.
Strength development. I mean,
but the flow-on effect, you're doing it all the time, and you limit your hypertrophy as a result. Like
you might limit your strength gains. But what about when would you see an application for cold water therapy where you want to develop strength but don't want to get bigger?
Yeah.
Right. There's a large population of people who want that.
Who want to develop strength and not get bigger. Yeah. Anyone that needs to make weight for a powerlifting show or something like that.
Exactly. Oh. So we obviously need to see more research to see if it impacts those pathways. Yeah. Those neural adaptations.
That's super interesting.
So something to think about. It probably does impact it, but it's like how much.
How much and for like how long? It might be specific. You could just implement it for a couple months to stay around. Like your weight?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
really need to know more about it.
Fair enough.
Those people doing the research, please go do the research.
But for the sake of this argument, so the sake of recovery in cold water, immediate recovery to feel better the next day, probably a good idea because it would limit inflammation and whatnot. If you want to get bigger and you're a bodybuilder or you're just trying to build more muscle mass, probably not a good idea. Yeah.
So probably good after a long race if you're an endurance athlete. Probably good after a rugby game because you're not getting hypertrophy.
Yeah, you're not trying to get bigger after a rugby game.
Yeah. So the application is very specific to all our efforts where you're going to be sore, but it's not because of training or training to stimulate growth. Yeah. So there is application still. It's not like a...
But all like bodybuilders that think they need to jump in a cold shower or something like that or afterwards.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum, should we talk about the other end of the
spectrum?
Heat.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, so sauna.
Yes, which is something that I've been implementing myself the last few weeks to try and loosen myself up a little bit more.
Limber. Yeah.
Get more limber, yep. So I've been doing some stretching in the sauna and whatnot. Just a little bit around my sort of neck and around my quad a little bit.
Okay. What's your experience with it?
I think it's helped. It's very hard to say because I'm not really controlling too much. And it was coming off the back of a deload week and whatnot. So like I anecdotally, like I enjoy it. I think I feel pretty good afterwards. Looser. I have pretty stiff middle back issues most of the time, and then after I do a sauna, I feel a lot better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you get some tissue relief from saunaing. We looked at one study. If we could bring that up. which looked at the hormonal releases of sauna. So obviously that's not really to do with specific tissues, but what we typically see in sauna is an increase in sympathetic response. That means that you increase in stress, which sort of makes sense. Like you're in a sauna, it's uncomfortable.
You're being cooked slowly.
Yeah, your core body temperature will increase.
Yeah.
In this particular study, they used rectal thermometers.
That's up the bum for everyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, that's already very uncomfortable. I wonder if that's contributing to the stress
levels of
response.
discomfort. Yeah.
Anyway, what's interesting is you probably hear, depends on who you listen to and that sort of thing, but you hear about heat shock proteins here and there.
Yep.
And they're supposed to simulate or reduce the degeneration of certain tissues, but they also can stimulate the insulin sensitivity of other tissues.
All right, so give us a rundown of that from start to finish.
Okay, so heat shock proteins, a little protein, right? Signaling protein that's released after heat shock protein. And we call them HSPs.
HSPs.
Yeah.
Little snack packs.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Delicious. Okay.
I like them so far.
Yeah, you like them so far. And what they do is they do a number of different things, but we'll just talk about two. One of them is they increase insulin sensitivity. That means that insulin, when it's released, does a better job of storing nutrients.
Okay.
So sauna has been shown to improve diabetics in terms of their response to food and sugar, and improves their insulin sensitivity, which is excellent.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And that study, if I can remember, it was 15 minutes of 70 degrees on diabetics, and it improved their insulin sensitivity. Very, very cool. And I think it's because of these HSPs.
Yep.
HSPs, what was the other thing I said they do? I can't remember.
Let's see. Blood pressure increases. No, blood pressure lowers.
Yeah.
Heart rate increases. They release.
Oh yeah, and it stops the degeneration of neurons. Yeah. So there's another application for HSPs, and that's to stop your brain from degenerating.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of research going into the fact that it should help with maintaining your cognitive function long term.
Yeah.
So
staving off things like, wow, now I've completely blank on Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Oh, that's appropriate. Alzheimer's and dementia, right? So, HSPs. They're obviously doing more research. It's pretty robust that they improve insulin sensitivity. How much it helps your brain is an ongoing thing, and it could be something else. Who knows?
I've heard some of this stuff just from listening to conversations of old dudes in the sauna over the last 2 weeks. I've heard this a couple times. It's the first time I heard about heat shock proteins.
Oh, really?
There was an old guy discussing it and the benefits for your brain, and I was like,
"Oh, he did."
He was saying it. He said there
he
was a study.
Okay.
There was a study. He said the study came out of like Norway or Finland or something like some Scandinavian, like, of course, because everyone's saunaing over there. Apparently, there was like this massive study over several years, and it like lowered all-cause mortality as well, and like a whole bunch of really good benefits. And so for like cognitive function, like stress levels, like all-cause mortality.
Yeah, the all-cause mortality one is very interesting. It's like an epidemiological study where a longitudinal study where they looked at different frequencies of saunas. So how many saunas you had in a week.
Yeah.
Because in Scandinavia, it's how many times you go a week, not whether you go.
Yeah.
Right? And the people who did more sauna had less cardiovascular disease, less of all these particular markers, which is what he's referencing. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And super cool. And maybe it's because it's some sort of reset. I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe, like, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, his argument, obviously, like, it stimulates blood flow, which will help with recovery.
That's
like,
true. Yeah. Vasodilation.
Vasodilation. Yeah, like, I look veiny as hell when I come out of the sauna. Like, it's crazy. Maybe just the stress response in general. Like, cause some kind of low inflammation everywhere.
The interesting thing is, when you do exercise, you also release heat shock proteins.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And sauna seems to be a very similar stimulus as exercise. Similar sorts of things happen.
Oh.
Will be interesting to see if there's like an increase in BDNF. Do you know what that is?
No.
Brain-derived nootropic factor.
Okay.
So that helps with making new neurons in the hippocampus.
Oh,
which is,
yeah, okay.
which is pretty cool. So for those of you who don't know what the hippocampus is the area of the brain where we can kind of store memories. That's like a very general
Description of the hippocampus.
Yeah. Okay. We won't delve any deeper.
The neuroscience.
But yeah, that comes from exercise, particularly cardio and probably strength training too. But
so the exercise helps with storing memories and just basically
Yeah.
brain. Everyone should know that exercise helps with brain health in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. Everyone should be exercising.
Excellent. But it seems like sauna has a similar sort of stimulus. Whether it actually helps your recovery from exercise itself, I don't know.
I reckon just stimulating more blood flow, like the same reason
The blood
you
flow.
tell someone to go for a walk the next day if they've got leg DOMs, like.
Or yeah, we didn't even talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like massage. You're increasing blood flow to certain areas.
Yeah.
Right?
They also and that's what like needling does. Like Liam described it to me, like it triggers an inflammatory response in that specific area that causes obviously more blood flow to the area, and
that's what scraping does.
That's what
So maybe all sort of doing.
It's just a global reaction of increased blood flow, and so it would help with recovery everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, blood pressure drops. That's pretty cool. So if you have high blood pressure, that's another reason why the sauna is great. Some people hate the sauna.
Is it just a discomfort thing?
It might be just a discomfort thing.
Maybe they've gone in once and not hydrated properly.
Yeah. That's an important thing with sauna, is just making sure that you don't
hydrate.
do anything stupid.
Yeah. I messed up once, like last week. I had to get out, like I was in the shower, under a cold shower, leaning on the wall, like just didn't drink any water before I went in. I think it was like immediately post workout as well, so I was just dehydrated as hell.
You probably lost like a few kilo, hey?
Yeah, like I should have weighed myself, but it was gotta drink water. I gotta bring my water bottle in. Yeah.
And then that would be another weird sort of thing to discuss. What about doing cold water straight after you sauna'd? Did you just impede
my recovery by
your muscle growth,
seizing everything up? I don't know. Like, but a lot of guys do. Like, they go from hot to cold. In the Scandinavian countries as well, it's like a normal thing to go from hot to cold.
What do you think? What's your first guess on that? Do you think?
Oh Christ, I wouldn't know.
The problem with the cold water study, and I didn't really talk about this, is I think they submerge them straight after the training. I wonder if there would be a different response if you did it later.
A little bit. Yeah.
It's going to impede the response, but is there a particular timing thing?
Because your muscle protein synthesis
happens over a fair amount of time.
Yeah, and it spikes like every time you eat. It's spiking all through the day, and so like you get it. Like, I guess if it's specific to just muscles triggering the protein synthesis, or protein synthesis in general in the muscles, like would you get a similar dowsing effect if you had a cold shower immediately after having a meal?
Oh, yeah.
It's like if you have a cold shower, cold bath after having your big steak dinner, are you going to impede your protein synthesis?
I think they measured the temperature within the muscle as well for that study. They were looking at the surface and intramuscular temperature, and it was the drop in temperature that caused it. Feasibly, we're speculating, right?
Yeah, of course.
Cold water would probably impede muscle protein synthesis anytime. Yeah. Yeah. So
you just have to weigh up the benefits to the.
It's the way of the pros and cons. Some people wake up and have a cold shower. Wake up, I'm ready to hit.
To wake up and stuff like that. There's other like applications for like cold showers, and ice baths and stuff like that for other reasons outside of recovery.
Yeah, developing resilience.
Yeah, like we talked about in one of the the breathing one episode. The ice bath that I did and stuff like that. And
because you did.
Why it goes along with the Wim Hof.
You Wim Hof it.
Yeah, and so like definitely, and I've done cold showers before just to wake up, and definitely it's like getting smacked in the face. Like you're immediately alert and awake and ready for the day, and so it depends. I guess it's case dependent and like.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem. Like with the extras, it depends, but with the others, it's.
With the big rocks,
the big rocks, there's no discussion there. Like you tell me you're sleeping 4 hours.
You can say you feel alright.
Yeah, jog on, mate. Like the percentage of the population that could recover with 4 hours of sleep is, I don't know. I don't even know if I could do that maths.
There's a specific gene. It's like 1 in 10 million or something like that only requires a very small amount of sleep to function at completely optimal levels.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
It's in that Why We Sleep book. He's like, but it's like there's some people that can actually do it, but it's literally 1 in a million. And if someone tells you that they're that person that can function on like 4 hours of sleep, they're probably not.
Yeah.
No, everyone wants to be that person, but like, it's 1 in a million.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be crazy. I'd love to meet someone that like can function completely optimally.
It's
off,
probably
like,
one of those CEOs who like
probably like Bezos or Elon Musk or something like that. But yeah.
Cool.
So, any other notes for recovery? Like,
not really.
Not really.
Sleep enough, eat enough food. Make sure you eat in and around training. Make sure you rest between days of training. We've sort of talked about that.
We didn't talk about DOMs or muscle saunas or like anything like that.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about that?
Maybe just a brief word. Like, obviously, if your muscles are already cooked and still sore as hell, don't train them again. 100%. Like, but it depends. It's always regulated when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, with saunas, some movement's going to help, right?
Yeah.
It's going to help you recover, but I guess your capacity to go full out is not there.
Yeah, like you wouldn't do bicep curls till failure 2 days in a row.
No, probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Unless it was like one set, maybe. Like if your overall volume for the week was still managed, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, the sleep, protein, and food non-negotiable. Rest is probably dependent, or the time period between. Case dependent on the amount of volume you're having, how close to failure you went, how much soreness you actually have. And then the extras are, we think massage is good. We think using tools is good.
Yeah, needling.
We think needling is good. Acupuncture is probably good if you get the right person.
Yeah.
I just didn't have a very good experience with it. We didn't talk about stretching though.
No. Should we cover it?
Just briefly?
Briefly? Give us your opinion on stretching.
Yeah, I mean, obviously stretching is going to be helpful, but if you're expecting stretching to improve your flexibility, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, okay.
We need a combination of stretching and strength training to see increases in flexibility itself. But in terms of recovery, I think stretching is probably a very, very good and useful thing. Yeah. Cool.
All right. So, if you guys have any thoughts on that, on recovering, you have any questions about some of these protocols that you can implement or anything like that, feel free to hit us up. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.